What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the program. We are back for another episode. My name's Lee Grossman. With me, as always, Mr. B Hawks memes, Justin Lynch, as well as Mr. Bomb, Ovi Clapbomb. Gentlemen, it's been a little bit of time. The Blackhawks season has finally concluded. Playoffs are well underway. We've got so much to talk about. We're also going to be touching on draft stuff, I'm sure, today, just because you can't even do this without talking about the draft picks and the prospects anymore, because that's all anyone wants to hear about. And I'll admit, we're all suckers for it. It's exciting, just thinking about what possibly could be. So we'll be touching on that and more today. First things first, though, Blackhawks season concludes. 72 points in 82 games, up 11 points from last year, but still second from the bottom of the NHL, locking in a top 4 pick in the NHL entry draft coming up here in a couple months. Ovi, we'll start with you.
Mhm.
What's your overall feeling from the season? How do you think it went? I know the final 10, 11 games were rough, but as best as you can, kind of describe how you think the year went from your perspective.
I think if anything, it's like a little underwhelming and would be kind of the overarching word I would use, where it was much of what we expected in a lot of ways, of where we didn't, or like, personally didn't think this team was going to take a major step towards playoff push this year. Um, so hopeful that it might be a little bit better than this, a couple more points, but overall, um, I think the biggest thing is Bedard showed clear steps. And that, like, people forget the narrative coming out of last year. Like, people were saying McKenna's already better than Bedard. Like, there was some real dooming around Bedard's trajectory. That's completely eliminated for me now. Like, he looks like he is going to be an absolute stud, and lead us somewhere, or wherever we go, it's going to be him taking us there. And then some other players who showed some real progression. Louis Crevier, Kaiser. I thought Oliver Moore was great. There's probably some names I'm forgetting, but it was really Kaiser, Crevier,
Ryan
and
Green.
Bedard. Ryan Green was a big one, took a big step. So I think from like a team level, probably didn't. We took a step, and that's good. Wish it was a tiny bit further, but at an individual level, I think you have a lot to be happy about. I think if you look at the development of each individual player on a really young team, beyond a few outliers, everything looked really good. Spencer Knight showed up and showed he's going to be a goalie for a decade, putting us in the fight. Um, so I'm happy, and I think this team is setting themselves up to take another step next year and kind of be in that San Jose range this year, where San Jose was this year, next year.
Justin?
Yeah, I think ditto. I think the biggest thing for sure is definitely Bedard's progression this year, particularly the way he played the first half of the season. I think just the way the second half of the Blackhawks year is gone, I think it's easy to forget the way the first half of the year went. Bedsy was absolutely phenomenal, 44 points in
Yeah,
31 games, was playing at the level of Macklin Celebrini in San Jose. I think, had he not, I've said this a lot, but I think if he doesn't go off an injury, I think if Dazar doesn't go off an injury as well, I think they probably finish considerably more than 72 points. So 11 points. I mean, it's not a crazy jump, but it is a jump, right? That's 20-point improvement across Bedard's 3 years. I think if you have that 20-point improvement, but across next season, be that 90-point range and be in the playoff conversation, that'll be a nice kind of goal to reach for next year. A lot needs to transpire for that to happen. But yeah, I think, not the way you want to see the year end there. At least we got a win versus San Jose in the last game, which gave us something, right? It was definitely a last homestand of doom and despair there for a while, with Jeff Blashill stating those last 4 games. You really want to show, the United Center fans, Chicago fans, how much there is to look forward to for the future. I'm glad we at least won one of those games. It didn't go 0 for 4 in that final homestand. And I was at that game too. It was a fun game. Bedard was good. Louis Crevier, the big Louis Crevier, was outstanding. He's absolutely asserted himself as a piece, like you said. Yeah, I think the biggest negative for me is probably the young decor. I want to see more out of them. Probably want to see more out of guys like Renzel already, but at the same time, they're also rookies in the NHL. I think a lot of us probably just expected too much out of those guys at this stage. So you want to see a lot of those guys get better. But I think in the four core, I think both Bedard and Nazar, more so Bedard, showed steps. Nazar, if not for the injury, probably, continue to show those signs of growth as well. I thought he started off the year really well. Second half of the year was a bit tougher, but I thought towards the end of the year, he started to kind of get that swagger back. So, and yeah, a lot of guys didn't expect, I didn't expect Ryan Green, like you said, did not expect much from him. Kaiser took steps forward as well. Moore, his injury was a shame. I think it would have been nice to see him towards the second half of this season. I think they definitely missed him. Lars was very good in the brief stints we saw of him. So a lot to like. I know standings wise, not the year we wanted, but I think at the end of the day, it actually could be a good thing for us, depending on what happens on May 5th. I think if we end up with one of Gavin McKenna or Ryber Stenberg, I think it'll pay off pretty good for us in the long term. So yeah, short term, not the year we wanted, but long term, I think could be a fruitful season. Yeah.
I think that last bit is the silver lining, right? There was a step, albeit not a massive one, but there was a step, an 11-point step. You did have the positives, like some of those young players proving at the very least that they'll be NHL players. We can sit around and argue where Oliver Moore and Nick Lardis and Ryan Green may ultimately slot on an NHL team, but they proved at least that they can play at the level. And then look, man, you've wound up with a guaranteed top 4 pick in the draft. And I put out a video yesterday looking at my bold predictions for the season. And my final prediction at the start of the year was that the team would finish with 76 points. And so, 4 points off there, still an 11-point jump. I guess a message I would give to the fans who are just with all the doomers on social media and all the doomers on Twitter saying I don't know how you could expect this team, if they don't make any big acquisitions this summer, to make any real jump. And it's man, they made an 11-point jump this year off the backs of the young players. It wasn't Connor Murphy that came in and became a better player this year. It wasn't Jason Dickinson or Ilya Mikheyev that became better players this year. The Blackhawks improved 11 points on the standings because their young players took steps, specifically Connor Bedard. And so I think to expect another step next year, but a bigger one, just because the team is filled up with young players, I think that's perfectly reasonable, and that's what I'm expecting. I also mentioned, you guys talk about the defensemen. I don't think... Is it a coincidence that Wyatt Kaiser and Louis Crevier were maybe the most impressive this year? It's of course they were more impressive than Artie and Sam Renzel.
Yeah, I wonder why that is.
Why could that be?
Because they're older, they got more experience, right?
They've developed, because a defenseman takes time to develop and to from a physicality, psychology, from every point of view. This makes no sense to judge a defenseman until they're at least 22, 23 years old. And even then, you're absolutely right, man. When was Crevier? He was 2020.
Yeah, he was 2020. He was 2020, I think.
Yeah, and it's he's been
Kaiser's
developing for a while. It's and Kaiser's certainly taken his time.
No, I think Kaiser was 2021. I don't think Kaiser 2022 was David
Renzel and Korchinski.
Yeah.
And Kaiser was a Stan Bowman pick. So I
Yep.
think Kaiser was 2021. Crevier was 2020. So that
just shows you right there, man. It
It's
shows you.
It's a perfect anecdote. It's a perfect example. It does take time, except for the very top of the top. And if you want to complain about not getting a Matthew Schaefer, Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar quality pick with your second overall pick,
those are so rare. Those are so rare.
And Matthew Schaefer is incredibly rare. Cale Makar took time. These other guys took time. Matthew Schaefer doing what he's doing is so unprecedented that it's you can't look at it like that. And it's unfortunate that Levshinov the parallels there, but do not compare to Schaefer, because he is a unicorn, in a unicorn in a world full of it. Pisses me off so much when people are bringing up Schaefer. It's man, you don't bring up McDavid when you're talking about Frondell.
It is unfair comparisons and expectations, but I mean, with all that being said, guys, what we always wanted this year to be was this, which we kind of hoped it would have we hope that last year would have been more similar to this year in the sense that the young players really got the reins and you started to see what you had in the prospect pool. And that didn't really happen until the end of last season, but that's what this entire year was. And so while we can sit here and say, you know, a lot of these guys need more time to develop because they most certainly do. You do get a glimpse at some of the play styles, some of the body types, some of the archetypes that you have. And you can, while it's totally fair to say Sam Renzel is probably going to get much better as he continues to get bigger and develop more and has more time. But you can still sit here and see how the season went and see how these guys played together and start coming up with, okay, we might need a little bit more of this, or we might need a little bit less of this. And so I think maybe that's what we should do for a bit here. You know, I know we talked about it a little bit last podcast, but just like some of the overlaps, like with a Kevin Korchinski and a Sam Renzel. And then if you look forward into next year and think about the potential top six, and if you're not thinking about, you know, who they can bring in or who they're going to get at the draft, if you're thinking about the top six next year, you know, do you have some players with similar qualities that become a little redundant up there? You know, i.e. Nick Lardis, Roman Kanserov, Nazar, Moore.
Yeah,
what are your
guys'
get bumped
thoughts?
Out. Yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on that? Like when you, I guess, Justin, I'll start with you. When you look at this roster, what does it feel like we maybe have a little too much of, and what does it feel like we maybe need a little bit more of?
Well, I mean, especially if you get McKenna Stenberg, which that's a big if, right? You probably shouldn't assume that. But if you do, I mean, absolutely, at least one or two of these guys are probably going to get bumped out. You know, Bedard, Nazar, Frundell, those are probably the only 3-4 pieces where it's like, you know, those are your top three core right there. But pretty much anyone beyond that, I think, is a question mark. I like Nick Lardis a lot, but when you have Oliver Moore, Ryan Green as well, I think between those three players, I have a hard time envisioning all three of them being future members of this core. Especially I look at Oliver Moore and Ryan Green. Like, they're different players, but I do feel like they kind of fulfill similar roles in a sense. Who's going to be the 3C, right? Green's look good on the wing as well. Moore had the injury, unfortunately, to derail the season. But I do see quite a few guys here where it's like, okay, once you start adding up and you throw Cancer on the team too, you have Bedard, Frundell, Nazar, Kanserov, Lardis, Moore. Like, it just, you go down this list and it's like, where's the room? And then you might be adding McKenna Stenberg as well. Green. It's like you go through all these pieces and it's just, you have a hard time envisioning there being room for all these guys. So it's like, okay, like who's the guy who's kind of the odd man now? Because I look at this four core, I think what we've all been saying is you kind of need a physical, you know, gritty top 6-4 with size up there, right? You know, power forward-esque, that type of player. That's kind of what's missing up there at the moment. So if you have to package a Lardis, Moore, Green, you know, to be able to acquire a set player, that's probably something you should do. Like, I like those guys a lot. A lot of these players I like, but you know, hockey's a business. You can't get married to these guys emotionally, and you're gonna have to make some sacrifices in order to make those big fish additions. So, yeah.
Yeah, Ovi, any of those kind of overlapping players and qualities standing out to you?
It like I kind of beat that drum before that it's going to get crowded really quick, and it's already starting to get crowded, particularly like in that top 6, and guys who you look and it's like, well, if he's not a top 6 player, that's probably not, you know, ideal for him to develop anywhere else. Nick Lardis comes to mind as a player who, when I'm going through the lineups of the future, as much as I love Lardis, and I can sit here and tell you that I think he absolutely has all the tools to not only be a goal scorer in the NHL, but a good two-way player in the NHL. It's still hard to pencil him in when you have Frundell, Nazar, Kanserov, Bedard, Stenberger, McKenna, probably missing somebody else, but even then he's like already relegated to
Kanserov.
Yeah, Kanserov, and like Kanserov's a big one. You know, if Kanserov's not a player, which is I'm
not betting against him.
Yeah, no, I'm not betting against him either. I think he's going to be like a minimum middle 6 guy. Maybe there's more room for Lardis, but like it's tough. And the thing with Lardis too is I think he could be an attractive trade piece, like an add-on to somebody's like, here's a guy who could be a goal scorer for you and be a top 6 guy. We need somebody who's going to fill a different role. Let's work something out here. But like this whole ideology was based off of like an accumulation of lots of draft picks, lots and lots of draft picks. And that was never going to be sustainable in the fact of that they were all going to stay here and be a part of this team, especially if you're hitting on guys who are in the second and third rounds, like you are with Kanserov and Lardis. Like Lardis is a third round pick. Yeah, guys, like this is that's some great work. So if you could move it, fantastic. Point being, unfortunately, as fans, we love a lot of these kids. Unfortunately, we're going to have to say goodbye to a couple of them. And that time is coming soon. So, you know, all those Lardis fans out there, or the like whatever, whoever's your account, Moore, like whoever's your player, unless their name is Connor Bedard, Anton Frundell, or Frank Nazar, like, yeah, they might be gone. And we need to be okay with that, because it is like we have so much draft capital. There's some players I'd like to keep, but I want to bring some excitement to this team. I want to be in on Matthew Knies. I want to be in on Robo. I want to be out on a walk this summer and pull my phone out and
Robert Thomas.
Like what? Like no, like
Yes.
You know how I felt about Seth Jones, but you know, like actually a lot happier.
Oh, don't say that name. Vietnam flashbacks.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think it's kind of, there's so much draft capital in this organization that we can make a move, and we can add some excitement. We can add a good player, but it means saying goodbye to some of the boys that we love. And so just, we need to be prepared for that as a fan base.
Someone's got to be the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. It's hard to say who exactly, because you're right.
A few guys. And you have to be okay with that. There's 12 spots in a roster, and I don't know if I talked about this much, or if we talked about this much on the last pod, just because I've just spent so much time live, and like even during these playoff live streams, the intermissions end up just being Blackhawks talk and whatnot. Yeah. So I've spent a lot of time talking about this stuff, but the more I think about it, the more I think about what this general manager is able to do in the draft. And what I mean by that is, and I'm going to put out like a comprehensive video going through every single one of Kyle Davidson's draft picks. But what I've noticed from this general manager is you can question his ability to pick at the top of the draft all you want, and that's very fair.
And gems in the later rounds.
I personally do it, but he consistently finds NHL quality pieces in rounds 2 through 4. And so when you're able to do that, what are we doing sitting here and worrying about middle 6 potential future pieces? Like, what are we doing falling in love with guys that are going to be in the middle 6? At the end of the day, the most important thing on your team is your top 6. You need studs in your top 6. Everything else you can figure out down the road. You've got all the assets to go out and trade for a good third line center or a good fourth line guy that can defend and also skate and be physical. Those things are very easy to come by. So for me, I have no problem at all taking a risk in packaging 4 of these young players for a Robert Thomas, because I know Robert Thomas is going to be an absolute stud 2C behind Connor Bedard, and that solidifies things in your top 6, because then Anton Frundell can play on the first line, and then, you know, whether Nazar's involved in that package or not, like, I'm sorry, I'm not falling in love with any of these guys who are not surefire, bona fide top 6 players at this point. And like Nick Lardis, I really believe in Nick Lardis, and I really love Nick Lardis, but I just don't see a world in where you're winning a Stanley Cup with a top 9 that includes Oliver Moore, Ryan Green, Nick Lardis, Roman Kanserov, Frank Nazar, and Connor Bedard. You're too small. You're too small. You are. And I hate to do the, you know, it's not a roller coaster. I don't mean that like if you're a certain height, you can't play in this league, but if your entire top 9 is a certain height, you're not going to win.
Yeah, you need some dogs up there. You need some dogs. Maybe a guy like you. We got some guys in the prospect, but we don't have a ton of it right now in this roster. But I look at a guy like Vaclav Neshersol, 6'5" beast. Maybe he could be that top 6 power forward missing. But I think if you have to go out and get that this offseason, you can. You do. You need a Mary host out there. You need a host out there.
I think he will be that role. It's just I think it's going to take
years down the line.
Yeah, this is like 5
Get that
years.
now. Get that now. If you want to be the playoffs next year, you need that.
Let's go get Matthew Nyes.
Yeah. Fuck, man. I don't know. I'm watching Robbo in the first couple games. He looks.
Yeah, Robo would be pretty good. It's funny, like there's like backlash against that. Just like that, it just wouldn't be a good deal, and it's kind of like, well, what do you really want here? Like, do we want somebody to play next to Bedard, or like there's some contrast in the arguments on Twitter, man. It'll make you go crazy.
45 goals, 51 assists, 96 points. And some people are like, nah. I'd rather see another year of Andre Burakovsky at Bedard's wing.
Yeah. The reason why, and I see the same thing with Austin Matthews, and it's beyond just the injury concern with Austin Matthews that people push back there. It's because of that Leafs narrative. And, I understand the thing with Robbo is like, he's not a fast skater. Is he?
He's not a perimeter guy too.
Yeah, he is, even though he's big, it's a pretty fair criticism to say that he spent a lot of his career scoring points on the perimeter. But the reality is if you've got other guys who can do those other things, then it's less of an issue. And so I think if you can get a guy like Jason Robertson, you don't just pass on it because he's not like the perfect. It's like that is a surefire banger first line player. It's like you don't just pass it up because it's like not your perfect prototype playoff player. Patrick Kane, and you can use this example every single time, is like Patrick Kane is not your prototypical playoff player. Like that is, he doesn't go to the dirty areas, like Patrick Kane was a terrible two-way player, he was undersized. But if you've got one Jason Robertson, you got one Patrick Kane, and then you've got some of that other stuff, it's fine, And so I do think that, yes, if Jason Robertson becomes available, you should at least try to go out and get him. And there's the caveat of like, yes, if the asking price is too much, it does get to a point where it's not worth it. But if you bring in Jason Robertson and you're able to keep Anton Frundell, doesn't it make it's simple? You play Jason Robertson with Connor Bedard, and then you're just working on who are you playing with Anton Frundell as the second line center. Am I tweaking there?
Yeah,
you keep Frundell at C.
So it just brings an elite hockey mind into the locker room. It's just like something you wouldn't really want to turn down in a room full of like really young, impressionable kids who are seemingly going to like lead your organization for the next decade. Like, don't you want somebody in there who's like, I think we talked about it with the defenseman. Like last time we talked, it's like, I don't want a defenseman who like used to be good and is going to teach them what they used to do. Give me somebody who's good right now so they can see it right in front of them. And I think we're getting to the stage where like that's important. We need some guys who are like significantly. They don't need to be better than Bedard, but they need to be better than the guys
in the vicinity of Bedard, because we haven't really had that yet.
And they need to be better than the other guys. Like, you need to like be significantly better than Frank Nazar in his second year.
The gap between Bedard and the rest of the team is just it's too high. It's too high.
Yeah, there needs to be somebody
in the
closer.
middle there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Bedard hasn't had that elite level winger yet. I mean, he's played 3 years in the NHL. He hasn't had that. And it's just the scary thing is remembering how good he played at the beginning of the year without even having that. Imagine what he could do with a Jason Robertson type player on his wing. I think 100 points is easy. I think he could well surpass that.
With Frundell and Robo, like 82 games.
Oh yeah, I think.
Are we talking about Bedard, Celebrini? Like if that's the line this year?
I was just thinking. Yeah, I think that debate would swing back in Pookie's favor with a player like that in his wing, and then Frundell is your 2C. I mean, yeah, I think you're in a pretty good position there. I mean, Bedard, Nazar, Frundell, Robo in your top 6. Do
you boys buy it that this summer, like all the Saravalli and the Chris Johnson stuff, that this summer that KD swinging? That's some
if there's
picks are gonna
any
be
summer,
moved.
this is the summer, because last summer he didn't really do anything. And Lee brought up a good point when you were walking back from the Blues game, right? Because I think last year the Hawks ended the year strong, injecting the youth in the lineup to where he didn't feel like you need to make those additions and be aggressive during the summer, kind of see like a full year of what this Hawks youth movement can do. But this past season, the way the year ended, this Hawks team got even younger, right? We injected even more youth into the lineup, but the way we ended the year, I think, showed no, this team needs some prime veteran additions over the summer. We have all this cap space, all this cap room, all this draft capital to do it, where it's like, no, I think this is the summer for Kyle Davidson to get aggressive. Yes, he did get extended, but I think if anything, that extension probably warrants it's time for the Hawks to, start being aggressive and bring a winning team here, right? It's going to be Bedard's 4th season. I don't think we want to see 4 years of no Bedard playoff hockey. I think we've all been watching these playoffs to talk more about it, but it's just like seeing the atmosphere in these arenas, especially Buffalo as well. Like, it's been too long. It's been since 2017 that we've seen United Center playoff hockey. That's going to be a decade next year. I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait a decade, man. We've been pretty patient. We've been waiting here. I think, next year is the time to get a playoff team here. In order to do that, it's not just going to come through these young guys. You got to be aggressive over the summer and bring in pieces like that. You got to make some sacrifices, but that's the name of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I pay attention to the words and the language of some of the people around the team. And it's not just like Frank Seravalli, Chris Johnson. Like, it's not just like those types of people who, I do think Frank Seravalli talking about that on the Blackhawks broadcast does mean something. Not that like Seravalli knows that something's going to happen, but if you're having a guy on the broadcast,
if that's that's a PR move. If you wanted a PR move, that's what you do.
Yeah. And it's like if you're gonna have this guy repeatedly saying that stuff on your broadcast, and then you're just not gonna try to do it, and then it's also just like if you look at some of the language of like Danny Wirtz and I saw Eddie Olczyk was on like a Chicago radio show recently, and what they all kind of say is Kyle Davidson's done a very good job up until this point, kind of refilling the cupboards, loading up that prospect pool, gathering those assets. And they all say, now's kind of that time for the next
to prove
step.
Himself.
And so he signs the contract. I think this is the time. I think there's no better time than now. I think you have a ton of prospects that haven't all reached the NHL yet, haven't reached pro hockey yet. And I think having a lot of that is also beneficial in the sense that, like, the potential upside, like, it isn't known what these guys could be. I think that could be an asset when you're
great bargaining chip
in
in negotiations.
Exactly. That want futures and want players that are on the precipice of becoming professional hockey players. So I think he's got everything in his toolkit. And I think Kyle, like I even watching the Kyle Davidson exit interview, like he again talked about his willingness to do it. I think he might be getting like, it's like now's the time. And so he not that he like pushed back on it, but I think he wants to give himself a little bit of leeway. He's not saying like, yes, we're going to go out and swing for the fences this summer, because then that puts all the pressure on him. He gave himself a little bit of room. We've tried. Trust us. It's something we're considering all the time. I can promise you it's something that we're thinking
no
about.
more try. You got to make it happen, because I remember he did inquire about Jake Gensel in 2024, right? Like we hear a lot that Davidson, the Blackhawks, inquire about certain things, but now's the time to actually make it happen. So I think we're going to be extending Bedard this summer. What better way to signal this Bedard extension than getting him his running mate? Yeah.
And I don't think he was seriously in on any big fish last year, but I think he is going to be this year. And people always say, like, why would this guy want to come to Chicago? Like, why would Austin Matthews wait for Chicago?
Franchise.
I'm like, what? Are you
Bitch,
kidding
please.
me? Like, one of the most beautiful cities on the planet, original six franchise, doesn't have the media scrutiny that the Canadian teams have.
One of the best fan
promising
bases.
Young. Yeah. You're coming to play with Connor Bedard. It's like they've got
decade removed from a dynasty.
Yeah, it's not. That wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't. Yeah. And so when people say that, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? There aren't three teams that have more assets to give than the Chicago Blackhawks. There aren't. Like, they are at the very top. Any way you roll the dice, and so that makes me nauseous when people are like, why would they? And I'm like, because who else could give 4 picks or 4 young prospects, players that are just entering the NHL, plus picks for a guy. Who else can do that other than the Chicago Blackhawks?
Like a sports-driven city. That's like you said, no crazy media presence, good weather. Like it's a way different market than California markets. It's got Bedard. They got lots of young kids. They've got respected coach throughout the league. Some Twitter will tell you otherwise, but Blashill is definitely respected throughout the league. I wanted to touch just briefly on something. What do you boys think the Buffalo game had anything to do with any of the trajectory? Because I just had a thought, and it's like there's no validity.
It's very sudden there. Yeah.
I thought about the All-Star game when Chicago got shit pumped by St. Louis. And there's a thing that came out that Davidson was like sour and went down in the room and addressed the team that wasn't good enough. I wonder if Davidson had some type of emotional reaction after Buffalo, knowing that it was game like that 4-game stretch that we're supposed to see what we have. Like, I wonder if Davidson was like that game particularly went so poorly that he was like, okay, like if things had gone different, maybe I'm going to sit on my hands a little bit more, but did the pressure just get jacked up like that much because of how bad that game was versus Buffalo?
So that may have been a silver lining then. Yeah, force him to kind of get more aggressive.
Like, is that crazy to think that something changed in them?
It wasn't just that game. It was the Carolina game where you're
that whole month of April was bad.
It was where you're playing the Chicago Wolves essentially, and then I went to the game against St. Louis. It ended up just being like a 2-goal hockey game, but they were never in that one. It was a brutal performance, and so. Yes, I think it had to have like done something for Kyle, because it's
all the pundits too, man, were like, Mark Lazarus was like, that's not how you send your fans out. Like, that was, this was a good opportunity to show the fans something to be excited about. And you could have left them like that. And it was like it was a rough few days. Thank God we beat San Jose at the end of it all.
Also to be the summer of doom and despair here. If we lost that game too. Yeah.
And you can talk about patience all you like, but
it only goes
at the end of the day, we're living in the real world. Like, yes, you can talk about how it would be beneficial to just give this guy as much time as possible and be as patient as possible and whatever's but this is real life. Like, this is business. You got a massive fan base. Like, there's no other situation in life can you take like, if you're working on improving something, whether it's in your own life with relationships or something at work, you need to get better at something at work. Like, yeah, if you've got good people in your life, they're going to give you a little bit of leeway. They're going to give you a little bit of grace. They're going to have patience with you. But at the end of the day, you can't just sit around for years waiting for something to change. And that's just not real life, man. Like, what? And it's no different for Kyle Davidson, just because he's a cute little guy and the Blackhawks brought him up and he was, the GM in waiting under Stan Bowman and Eddie Olczyk, this was their golden boy. Like, I don't care about the relationship between Kyle Davidson and the Wirtzes. Like, great, they have a good relationship. That makes me happy. We can't just sit here for a decade waiting for these prospects to become a winning NHL team. I think you have to do something. And I have defended this guy as much, if not more than anyone. But that's just the reality of it to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's certainly like
I should use that line of logic with my family from now on. Like, I know I'm not performing right now, but give me, 2 to 3 years and I'll be right there. I'll be right there.
Let me develop.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, exactly. Like, and your family might be pressured. Hey, like, what are we doing here? And they might give you a little bit of grace, but at the end of the day, like, there's still expectations, like, you still have to deliver. You still have to do something. You still have to show progression.
I got a plan, Arthur. Just need one more draft, one more prospect, and we'll be right there.
Yeah, we just need one more top 3 pick, and then then we got it. We got that player next to Bedard, and then it comes and there's some discourse, and and then we just take a defenseman. And it's like, whoa, what the fuck happened here, boys? Like, spent 2 years talking about a winger for Bedard, and then anyway, that's hypotheticals. I think with Davidson, that if this summer doesn't go in a somewhat positive manner, I think you're going to see a pretty big shift. I don't know, those like end of the year kind of like fan vote things where they kind of tell you where the fans are at headwise around the organizations. And I think with Davidson, it's been good and slowly going down. I'd like to see what it is this year, just based how kind of bad it finished. And I think next year, I think you could really see it really plummet. Like, I know personally, like I've had a lot of patience with them. I've really bought in to this, the ideology of it all. If things don't start turning around next year, and like if we're like, I'm gonna have some serious concerns, and like I know I'll be using like my platform to be vocally concerned.
I've definitely been a lot more vocal.
Like, I'm not vocal of Davidson. Like, and like the only thing I can really criticize him for and like be adamant about it is the Demidov pick. That I wanted Demidov, and I thought that was the right option all along. That's the only thing I can be like, what the fuck, Davidson? Other than that, I've liked what he's done. But like, you're right, you can't sit on your hands forever. It's a result-driven league, and eventually fans are going to get fed up. If we represent the more patient side of things, you know, and next year, like it's like, okay, this is kind of the final straw here. Where's everyone else at, and how's that going to reflect on the league? And just some other things, man. Like, maybe we don't need to get into draft stuff yet, but I have if there's some decisions that are poised to maybe happen that I would be very vocally concerned about.
Before we get into draft stuff, I do just want to like have a message to like the audience, and like kind of back to a subject we were talking about a little bit ago. But if Kyle Davidson is going to do something this summer and be aggressive and go out and get a top player, whether it be a Jason Robertson, or if Robert Thomas is still available, or
Matthew Nyes.
Austin Matthews, Matthew Nyes, whoever it may be. I'm off the Matthew Nyes train, but
it's okay. I'm all on.
Whoever it may be, the Chicago Blackhawks are going to be giving up several pieces that you don't want to see them give up. They are going to be giving up a couple of your favorite players, and you have to be okay with that. If you want to get better, you have to have the stomach for that. I was lecturing my stream the other night, and I was saying I'd be willing to give up player X, or I don't know if it was Sam Renzel or Kevin Korchinski or Oliver Moore or Nick Lardis or even Frank Nazar if it came to that. I was saying that if you were bringing in the right player and a really good player in return, I'd be open to it. And a bunch of people were like, no, not this guy, not that guy. And you know what I said to them? I said, none of you would have had the stomach to make the trade that the Florida Panthers did to bring in Matthew Tkachuk. They gave up Huberdeau, who had 115 points.
Everybody thought they lost that trade.
And Mackenzie Weegar.
And Weegar.
And a first-round pick. Yeah. And so if you are bringing in an elite player, you have to have the stomach. You have to have the balls to be able to be willing to roll the dice. Because yes, it's a risk. Of course it is. But if you actually want that, don't just be on Twitter whining and bitching about, we need a player to play with Bedard, or we need a true 2C. Don't be complaining about that stuff, and then also complain when one of your favorite.
You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways.
It's
no more half
measures,
other. Walt.
And so, if 4 players are going out that I believe in, so be it. If it's bringing an elite talent, and so I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. No more half measures, Heisenberg, Kyle from Chicago. Now is the time to see where your cojones are, man.
Yeah, it takes nuts to be a good GM, man, and you do have to. At some point, you have to put your nuts on the line. It's a weird thing too, man. I think I've kind of realized that like there's hockey, there's a hockey community, and then there's hockey Twitter, and then there's like prospect hockey Twitter, and it's like it's a very kind of like niche thing. And like that's one of the reasons like I kind of maybe buy into Davidson is I've always really liked prospects and really like dove into the young players, and always had an infatuation with them. But like, yeah, there's some people who's like, that's kind of that's why they're on Twitter. That's what they constantly engage in. The draft season is the best time of year, and it's really, really exciting. So like those people, more reluctance, but that's not rooted in the reality of hockey. That like you can get pieces from that, but like to build a team at some point, you're gonna have to put your nuts on the line and make a big move that you might not like, or there's possibility it might blow up in your face. But it's you're right, and hopefully the players that I like don't go away.
You can't solely draft your way to success, right?
I'll be prepared if it happens, man. I'll be prepared.
Prospect pools don't win the Stanley Cup.
I just need that notification. Blackhawks trade, just absolute monster blockbuster for Robert Thomas in fucking July or I want it so bad, man, and I'm willing to.
When's the last time we really had a big move like that, man? I guess Spencer Knight, Seth Jones trade was probably the last big one. Yeah, man, that one went really well. So,
and then before that, it was probably bringing in Seth Jones
and trading for Marc-Andre Fleury and Tyler Johnson.
I thought we were going to be so good that year.
Henrik Borgstrom was our second line fucking center. Oh, what a.
Jeez. Yeah, some grim times. But all right, let's pivot and kind of look towards the draft. A bunch of names kind of popping up on Blackhawks prospect Twitter. I guess if we're going to have this conversation, it's very important to talk about where they're drafting, because I think the conversation at 1 or 2 is and should be significantly different than the conversation you have at 3 or 4. A couple of things before I turn it over to you guys. We've heard the Caleb Malhotra thing recently. Jeff Merrick kind of, and Ovi just called it a pop flyer.
Yeah, a total pop fly, man. He's just like, hey, I'm just gonna here's something you all know.
Yeah. Oh, the Blackhawks have been interested in Caleb Malhotra. The Blackhawks' favorite team to draft from, the Brantford Bulldogs. Who would have thought that their top young center is catching the eye
in consideration? Breaking news: Blackhawks watch prospect Merrick Vernacker. Would pretty much what that said to me.
Yeah, would have not have seen that coming. But beyond that, also, like, we've talked so much about Gavin McKenna and Ivar Stenberg, and those being the guys that we really want. I think there's a complete and utter possibility that an Ivar Stenberg is available at 3. And so I don't know, man, when I just think about the habits of this general manager and what he tends to do, I just I get worried that he's going to really piss me off. Can I be honest with you? Like, I'm bracing to be pissed off.
You think he's going to pass on a McKenna Stenberg for Caleb Malhotra? If he does, Hawks Twitter will have a nuclear explosion.
Dude, and I just watched 30 minutes of Caleb Malhotra tape today, and like,
that's good.
I get it. Like, he's an athletic. He really does.
I pick him at like 3 or 4
upside.
Not 1
but
or 2.
like, is that what we need the most?
Like, it's not missing.
Anton Friendel can play the 2C. Like, if that's what you decide.
For the love of God, please just take a winger and eliminate the Demidov.
We have enough centers.
I can't live the rest of this fucking Bedard era, like comparing Levshinov and Demidov and saying we never took a game-breaking winger. Just take the fucking game-breaking winger, or who has potential to be a game-breaking winger, and then the conversation's done and you tried. If it doesn't work, whatever, but don't fucking, I swear to God, if Keaton Verhoff is on this team, I'm gonna like lose my shit. Like,
I do think
it's right in front of you, man, and it's like you're just getting too cute. I think McKenna or Stenberg at 1, absolutely. You don't pass on McKenna in my opinion, but they very well might. If you take Malhotra at 2 over either of those guys, I'm out on Katie. I'm fully out on Davidson. Like, as somebody who has supported that, like that's in this situation, I think that's an unacceptable pick. To pick Malhotra over Stenberg or McKenna is just like, you can't do that.
I do think the Levshinov Demidov thing has, like, that's still ingrained in all of our heads to where
it's irreversible.
we shouldn't be thinking about this as a possibility, but Davidson has shown that sometimes at these drafts, especially high up, we can overthink these decisions a bit. So
I think somebody else though is gonna do what he did. I think somebody like realistically, like let's say somebody jumps up and Hawks are picking third. I think it's just gonna go McKenna, and then I think right-hand shot defenseman, because like that's such a it's a valuable asset, a valuable commodity. They don't grow on trees. You can't trade for these guys and free. Like all those narratives are gonna pop up, and then somebody else is gonna take the right-hand shot, whether it's Chase Reed or Keaton Verhoff, and then Stenberg will be there at 3.
Then the Hawks take another right shot defenseman, and then he drops.
Yeah, that would be another unacceptable outcome, man.
Here's my thing is that what Kyle Davidson has done with the draft and his whole philosophy has been building through the draft. And so what he's done is try to draft by way of positional need.
Do best player available, especially at the top of the draft.
And where has that gotten us? That has gotten us into a situation where it still feels like we're lacking a few things. Like you can say that right side of defense is covered, but it's like we still lack a true high-end defenseman. Maybe
Especially
already can turn into that, but you're still lacking a true top defenseman. You've got 2 defensemen in Kevin Korchinski and Sam Rinzel that are just way too similar. That aren't, when you look at the playoffs, you look at like guys that do well. It's guys that can defend the crease, be strong around the net, and then also are able to make quick decisions in their own end and get pucks out, and it's like, that's what these guys struggle with. And so, and you can do the same thing for the forward group. Is like we're now at
true stud.
He built with speed and skill up front and size on the back. Well, your size on the back is you're tall, but you're not very strong. You can say they're young, but I would rebuttal with, I don't think you can pack much weight on the frames of Kevin Korchinski or Sam Rinzel. I think that's just biology. But when you're talking about speed and skill up front, it's like now we're looking at a potential top 9 next year with fucking 6 guys under 6 feet tall. And it's like, well, you got all this speed and skill, but you don't have any muscle to supplement it with.
What's going to happen in the playoffs? Yeah.
And then last draft, he goes to that, and it's like all he drafts is just the size. And so I think all this, like his drafting philosophies have I'm not saying they haven't worked because we don't know. It's too early to truly judge that. But just go draft the most talented player. You need talented players. Stop fucking doing this galaxy brain bullshit where you're like, we could really use a left shot defenseman that can be physical and also has 2-way upside. Like, okay, let's go get Carroll's here. Like, please, for the love of God, pick the most talented player available.
You could always just acquire that, in trades or free agency. But in the draft, when you're picking, top 5, top 10, those types of players, those Gavin McKenna type players, are rare. Those are the players you should be taking. Yeah.
Oh, man,
after watching Malhotra tape, I get it. I think this guy probably will be a second line center in the NHL.
Yeah, he's a dog, man.
But Ivar Stenberg and Gavin McKenna are significantly, they are more talented.
They're up here.
They are more talented than him. And if I'm being honest with you, I've watched that Chase Reed tape this week too. That kid's exceptional. He is extremely talented.
Yeah, I love Chase Reed.
If we're going to take a defenseman, he'd be the guy.
I would take him and trade Levshunov right.
Yeah, and so he's a right shot guy. And so you've got Rinzel, you've got Levshunov, and you got Crevier. But if you're picking 3, for me, if we're not trading that pick and we're using that pick, I'm taking Chase Reed over Malhotra. Even though, could we use a really high-end forward? Yes. But Malhotra is like a 2C probably. Whereas Chase Reed, to me, looks like he's got potential to be that Quinn Hughes, Kel McCarr. I mean, the way he skates and
he's got true 1D potential, I think, like a power play quarterback.
He impressed me a lot of the World Juniors. He was one of the, he wasn't the best USA team, but he was definitely the standout for me. Yeah.
He's solid, man. I would definitely take him at 3 too. I don't think it's egregious, but I think it's there's enough of a gap there for me that it's definitely Chase Reed at 3. And then I would just like take Chase and then look to move one of our many other defensive prospects,
One of Renzel,
whatever, and then bring somebody else of, Caleb Malholtra's archetype in. And I think that you're right. I think that's the better option.
I'm just scared of a bad decision at 2, boys. That's what I'm really nervous about. Is you end up picking second overall,
it's justified,
and you make a bad decision, because I think if you bring in a Caleb Malholtra, again, man, I like the tape, but we're not just talking about the prospect in a vacuum. We're talking about the prospect in the Blackhawks system. You've got 8 guys under the age of 22 that all play center. You got 8 guys. You can make the argument that, and you can't even make the argument anymore that none of them can play 2C, because Anton Frendel just did it against the best line every single night that he was playing center. Not only did he play second line center, which he hasn't played center all year, they played him against the other team's best line every night. He proved that he can be that. Go out and get the most talented player. I don't care if it's a winger.
Yeah, we need more stars. We need more stars. Like, we have a lot of, especially the forecourt. We have a lot of prospects who are could be really solid second, third line players. But how many guys can you look at and say that's going to be a stud in the National Hockey League? I don't think I see enough of that right now. So when you have that option available to you, take it. Malholtra probably a very solid player in the NHL. Is that a star? Probably not. McKenna Stenberg early.
Reminds me of Desnoyers from last year, man. It
just it just doesn't move me. It doesn't move me.
Yeah, probably just like a little bit better offensive than YA.
And just like that last minute rise, it's like kind of like the narrative's getting scary to be like, and just hopefully it doesn't come to fruition, because it's a lot. Yeah. Hopefully we just get it.
We need another play driver. Like, you need a guy that, you can put on the ice without Connor Bedard and be magic. I know everyone's like, we need a player to play with Connor Bedard. Man, we need a guy that can do it on his own without Connor Bedard. You need 2 amazing lines. You need 2 amazing lines. And so whether it's Gavin McKenna, and I've talked a lot about Stenberg and how I think he'll be an amazing play driver. Gavin McKenna is also a play driver, just in his own way. He does it in like, Stenberg is the guy who's carrying the puck and skating down your throat, whereas McKenna's like, I know we've compared him to guys like Kucherov and Kane. It's like he's the one finding that cross ice pass that's setting another guy up to like easily skate into the zone. So McKenna does it in his own way. I think you really need that more than anything on your second line, is a guy who can drive play, because then you can put Frendel down the middle and then one of those guys on his wing, and then you go out and you package a bunch of assets and bring in a guy for Bedard's wing. And so that's, for me, that's all I care about, is Bedard to have a guy to play with. And then if Frendel's going to be the 2C, you need another play driver on that line. If you can have those 4 things, I'm willing to give up anything for it, because if you have that, if you have Stenberg on Frendel's wing or McKenna on Frendel's wing, and then you have a Jason Robertson type player on Connor Bedard's wing, you can literally ship out everything else and then just build off of those 4 players in your forward group, because they will be enough to get you to the postseason. And then it's just like, what can we build around them to make this a winning team come postseason?
Yeah,
I don't know if
ditto.
thoughts on that, but
couldn't agree more. Yeah,
and no, man, I don't know where you boys lay. If you're more of a McKenna over Stenberg, or I don't really care, or like Stenberg over McKenna, wherever you guys lie. I just would find it so crazy for the Hawks to pass on McKenna in particular, just with, I think he's been special for a long time. And there's so many other reasons. One, I think, like, for the fan base, the excitement it gives them, to be cheeky here, from a PR point of view, it works out too, man, because this is a Blackhawks fan. A kid grew up a Blackhawks fan, Bedard's family, and for fuck's sakes, he's Indigenous. Like, let's get the kid from Yellowknife, who is an Indigenous representative, to go play with the Indigenous sweater, like, does that, like, so if Jamie Faulkner's trying to shoot it down because he did the Conor McGregor celly, let's remind her, like, from a PR point of view, this is a very he's a good Canadian Indigenous kid who could be the next Nikita Kucherov. So like, why? And
he steps up for his family too. Yeah.
And he's wanted to be the next Patty Kane since he was 6. Like, why would you pass on this guy? Like, everything is like, you just don't pass on this guy.
Counterpoint. If or not really a counterpoint, kind of going along with what you said. If you're passing on Gavin McKenna for a PR reason, I want everybody in that front office out of there. If you I'm sorry, why should the fans have to pay for the transgressions of the organization from years past?
Yeah, like, no, it doesn't.
That's not on us. That's not on me. Who, I wasn't in that fucking organization in 2010. Why would the fans have to? And because at the end of the day, that's who pays the price for all of these decisions. Is the fans? We're the one paying for the tickets. We're the one buying the jerseys. We're the one paying $20 fucking to CHSN for the most dog shit. CHSN is a whole nother thing. I'm actually going to have a heart attack if I'm talking about it. But if you are not going to draft Gavin McKenna because he stuck up for his mom and punched some sucker in the face, or did a Conor McGregor
that should raise his draft value.
it should. You should be out of the organization.
Absolutely. Like, no, you're right. And like, I don't actually think that's the case. I'd like to think at least that's not the case anymore. I think coming out of that situation, you might have had some raised, some elevation around that kind of stuff. But I think at this point, at that case, you can't be making decisions off that. And like I just said, the PR move is to bring in the Indigenous kid to wear the Indigenous sweater. So I think. No, I'm not going to say that. I was going to make a big claim about if they don't take McKenna, but let's wait and see. Let's wait and see.
My only concern with them like passing up a Stenberger McKenna, if the argument's like, well, you're just getting like the same argument we just talked about and made for like, are you getting a little redundant with Oliver Moore plus Kanserov plus Nazar plus Lardis? But my thing is like, oh, if you are coming to that conclusion now, when you have a cornerstone type talent that you'd be passing off of, you didn't come to that conclusion in 23 when you drafted Connor Bedard, Oliver Moore, Roman Kanserov, and Nick Lardis all in the same draft after previously drafting Ryan Green and Frank Nazar the year before. You didn't come to that conclusion then, but now that you have the chance to draft a Stenberger McKenna, a true franchise-altering talent, now you're going to be like, oh, we don't want to get redundant now. This draft, and the more I think about it, the more hot I get, boys. Because this draft, fuck what happens next year. I don't care about what happens next year. For me, this draft is really what's going to affect my opinion on Kyle Davidson in this front office.
Yeah, no, I think this definitely feels like the make or break, because like this is really the last draft we should have to care about, right? This is the last draft we should be having a top 3 pick. We've had a top 3 pick the last 4 years here. I think if you told me back when we drafted Bedard that we'd still be in this position in 2026 for Gavin McKenna, I don't think I would have believed you. I believe Davidson said back in 2024 as well that we can't finish bottom 3 again, and we've done it the past 2 years. So I think next season's the time to really start making that stride forward. But it's not just next season; it's for the foreseeable future. I think just having a big draft here, you can't afford to screw this up. You can't afford to screw this up, because imagine having to watch Gavin McKenna or Stenberg light it up, another team for the rest of their careers. I think it's hard.
You will, man. I think whoever passes on Gavin McKenna, if he doesn't go 1-1, will feel that sentiment.
It's we're already seeing with Demidov in Montreal, right? I mean, yes, we don't want to compare him and Artie all the time, but it's hard enough watching this guy light it up, setting up Caulfield for these, slick plays every night. So it's just,
would it not just be asinine of the organization and like the fan, like where it lies to recognize how nice it would have been to have Demidov and to try to trade the Frundell pick for Demidov and to still not have required that type of player. To have that kind of archetype of that player kind of fall in your lap at 1-2 and then to pass it up, would that not be like asinine of the organization? I feel like that would just be like, if you pass on McKenna or Stenberg, man, like it's like, just get out of your own fucking way. Like,
and
come
so
on.
I think that's kind of the, like, if you pass on McKenna for Stenberg, I think you can,
you can justify, you can logic your way out.
Yeah, you can. There's a little more justifiable. I'm a little more bullish on McKenna, but I think there's lots of people who are definitely higher on Stenberg than McKenna.
And were people clowning the Anaheim Ducks for taking Leo Carlson over Adam Fantilli?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that would age pretty well, to be fair. Yeah, so far.
You know what I'm saying? Like, people were clowning on the Anaheim Ducks for
true.
taking Beckett Seneca too, but I guess
they did.
Just making some...
Verbeek was catching some strays for a while, man. He's probably feeling pretty good.
Yeah, but if it is that situation where Stenberg is like of the quality of Leo Carlson, it's like, well, this is, this is.
I don't think McKenna's Adam Fantilli, though. Yeah, it's
a what'd you say?
I don't think McKenna is Adam Fantilli, though, but I see your point.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. No. I see where you're going there, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, like if it's a cornerstone piece, I don't think you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, and I really do see how a Stenberg would be more attractive to this front office, just because you're building with the speed and skill, and it's like, Gavin McKenna's not slow, but I would say Stenberg's faster. I'd agree. Relies more on it. McKenna's good with his edges and can kind of curl away from guys similar to like a Patrick Kane. He can evade pressure and stuff. But when you're thinking of like really good skaters, you're thinking of guys that are like blitzing you, beating you with speed, crossovers, the whole nine. And I think that's more Stenberg's game. So we will see. A lot of stuff to be excited for coming very soon.
And nervous. I think we're all going to be pretty nervous on that day. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
And we've got the draft lottery coming in a couple of weeks. It's May 5th, so not too far from now. But you guys ready to transition away from Blackhawks stuff and do a little playoff talk?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
All right, so every single series is underway. We've got a few games tonight, not to date. Hopefully we'll have this podcast up tonight or tomorrow. But Canadians Lightning tonight, Bruins Sabres tonight, Mammoth Golden Knights tonight, and then Kings and Avs finishing up the night at 9:00 Central Time. I guess where do we want to start? Do we want to go Eastern Conference? We'll start by this. I'll ask each of you what series has intrigued you the most. If you can, and try to keep it one. Give me one series that's really intrigued you the most so far, and then why. And I'll start with you, Ovi.
Oh, that's a tough one. I'd say the Buffalo. I'd say Buffalo. Just even as a 26-year-old, I've never really seen Buffalo play playoff hockey. Like I have, but like my brain was not capable of comprehending like the level of hockey that I am now. And it's like, that building, that team, some of those players, so exciting. Like I really do think there's a lot of potential. The world really like recognizes Dahlin and Thompson. Like these guys really get propelled into like star status if this goes well. That building is fucking incredible.
Unbelievable.
I could hear them from Nova Scotia that night, and helps I took a couple of them in my playoff pool. But I think just seeing Buffalo against that original 6 team, and the variable of like a team that's been here and done it for a while and team that hasn't been here for a while but had a really good regular season. Like, how's this going to go? Swayman versus whatever goalie, like we don't know. So it's a really fun series, and that building, it's just that building, man. Oh my God.
It'll be really intriguing to see kind of what happens in game 2, because that game wasn't going swimmingly for the Buffalo Sabres.
No, man.
The first 2.5 periods,
they're getting booed.
Those fans booing them on the power play. Like, and to be honest with you, I picked against them for that reason. I was like, how are they going to react when they're down a couple goals or down a game or two in the series, and all that energy in that building kind of tilts the other way? It was going exactly kind of how I was expecting it, or, maybe suspecting that it would go.
It was then like Swayman show.
Yeah. Geez, did they flip that thing on its head in those final 10 minutes?
so sneaky, underrated high skill, that behind the net wraparound from Thompson.
Oh, it was
And
so
just
nasty.
when you consider that he is 6'6" and he is behind there like he's in a Timbit still, like, oh my God, man, it is. I was like, we didn't talk about that enough on the broadcast. I was like, that was so sneakily skilled. Like, that was insane.
I was streaming it live and I was like, that was an unbelievable play. Like,
Yeah, just
it was incredible.
high IQ, but the 6'6" foot man, like, if handles in a phone booth, man. And Gretzky was proud to see that one, I'm sure.
He's a true unicorn. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see how that series plays out. Those Buffalo fans clearly starved for playoff action and playoff success. So it was cool to see that game one win.
The tailgate, last thing I'll say about the fucking tailgate videos. Like, oh my God, man.
Hilarious.
Like, if that, I would love to get out there sometime, just watch those boys fucking rollerblade. Just
But
what
that's
a
the
time.
thing is,
What a city.
it probably won't ever be as good as it is
No.
right now, just because this team's gonna be good for the next several years. So it's
Mhm.
not like they've been getting edge, for lack of a better words, for the past 14 years, and
Yep.
they were just ready to get out
Go.
and have a ball. And it's like, it's still cold up there, but you're seeing guys without their shirts just absolutely hammered. I mean, that's playoff hockey. It's because it's the cup.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Justin, what about you? What series has had you geeking the most so far?
Well, I was gonna say Buffalo too, but I'm not gonna say the same thing. But I will
My
just
bad,
add it.
Steve.
Like, no, it's fine. But yeah, like 8-year-old me really doesn't have any memory of watching the Sabres in the playoffs. So it's just weird, being 23 and thinking like this is the first time I have a memory of watching this team play this time of year. So, and it's been great. It's been electric. I think watching that game, seeing that comeback late, kind of had me feeding for Blackhawks playoff hockey. It's been far too long, but
oh my gosh, yeah.
just the atmosphere there, because now we're going to have they had the longest playoff drought. We don't have the longest. It's the Red Wings have the longest drought, but we're not far behind. So I just don't want to see it go on for too much longer. But yeah, I would say besides that, I really like the Montreal Tampa series. I'd say maybe number 2. A lot of people are picking Tampa in that series. I actually have Montreal winning it. We're only one game in, but so far we're right on that one. Just having Montreal back in the playoffs as well. They were there last year, but I think just having that taste last year, they've had really good season this year. It's a really fun team to watch. I think they have a very bright future in the East. I know Tampa, of late, they haven't had the playoff success. They won back-to-back cups early on in the 2020s, went to the final against Colorado in 2022. But if you look at it since then, they really haven't had a lot of playoff success, but pretty much everybody's picking them to go to the final or East Conference Finals this year. But I don't know. I like that high-flying Montreal team. I think they could take it to them, and I think so far they're doing it. It's been a fun series to watch, and yeah, we'll see how it continues to evolve here. But I'd say in the East, that's probably been, besides the Buffalo, the one I've enjoyed the most. In the West, you said keep it to 1, but in the West, I would say probably Wild Stars. Probably it was that game 1 was not expecting that blowout there for the Stars, but I think the second game went more the way we expect this series to go, of it being pretty close both ways. So sure, it would be a first round series. It's kind of a shame it is, but yeah.
The Montreal series, I picked Tampa, and I was quite confident in that pick. I still think they're going to come back, but based on that game, now that's one I'm completely invested in, not just because I am quite literally invested in it because I've been on Tampa Bay Lightning, but just because of how physical. Well, I have
enough to worry.
I have like a $100 parlay where I picked Tampa, Colorado, and Edmonton to all win, and so I put $100 on it. But then I think there's like a couple more, so maybe a little bit.
You were lucky the Edmonton come back late there last night, then.
Yeah. But it's just game 1,
led by Jason Dickinson.
I'm sorry for these teams that have the experience. I'm not tweaking about a Tampa game 1 loss. I would not be tweaking in the slightest about about an Edmonton first game loss, because it's like these guys have been there, done it, and they're playing against teams that lack the experience. But I mean, experience didn't matter in that first game. Montreal took it to them. The power play was unbelievable. Whatever,
they have some experience too.
They do.
I kind of forgot about like the Suzuki Caulfield run to the finals. Like
Yeah,
different team, but like
that was an
bubble.
insanity
That was
run.
true.
Yeah.
but it's experience nonetheless, though.
It is.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's not the crowd. It's not.
No, and it's not,
different,
especially the Bell Center.
Yeah, it's not the same kind of pressure when nobody's in the arena,
and it's not winning the back-to-back cups. I guess Tampa's was in fucking.
Both of them were the COVID years, and there are no fans. It was weird watching that back in 2022 when the Hawks were invited as well. Nobody expected them to beat Edmonton that year. They did, but that was a qualifying series. It doesn't really count. But then Vegas took it to them the next round. But those are weird series to watch, man.
Thing with Montreal, man, is I think that's the best first line in hockey. Like I think that's like
they're really good.
Like
they're really good.
They're just the perfect like archetype of 3 like perfect players. You got your like two-way Selke centerman is reliable. You got your Rocket Richard right winger, and then you got your power forward goal scorer. Like it's just it's neither one of them is taking the Hart Trophy home, but all together, man, it's just that's the perfect line.
Yeah, but we'll see going forward in that series. I don't think that there's going to be as many penalties called down the stretch of that series. If Tampa can start to lean on them a bit 5-on-5, but a couple and just surprisingly bad penalties. I thought that Jake Gensel penalty at the end of regulation that Slavkovsky ended up scoring on in overtime, I thought that was a horrible high stick. I don't know what he was doing. So wouldn't be expecting Tampa to be that undisciplined in the games coming up. And then also I gotta tip my cap to Josh Anderson. I mean, that guy was Montreal's best player. I know Slavkovsky scored
he wakes up in the playoffs, man.
He was their best player, just running around, killing guys. I mean, actually, like probably took Dastu out of the series now, which is something else to look at. No Hedman, no Dastu. It's like, Tampa has been able to deal with injuries all year, but we'll have to see. But then he had that first goal of the game, and then he had another one that got taken back because it was a high stick, but still that guy was everywhere. And those are the guys who you need on your team in the playoffs, those big physical, still can skate and occasionally chip in offense. Like those are the guys that succeed in the playoffs, because when there's no space, you got to be strong. It's not it's not enough to just be fast. You got to be strong too. So that guy was unbelievable. And I'm excited for that series. Who did you guys pick for the Minnesota-Dallas series?
I had Dallas. I think gave them the experience edge. I know the Wild, they've been in the playoffs, but they haven't had the playoff success. Dallas are normally good for a round or two, and then they lose in the third round every year, like Carolina does in the East. But that was a very close series. I did think with the Quinn Hughes factor, I thought maybe giving Minnesota the edge because they haven't had a player like that in that decor throughout these years. But I gave Dallas the edge. Just the depth of that team, I think, is unmatched. Probably you could argue they're the deepest team in the league. So gave them the edge.
Yeah, experience too. As a noted Minnesota Wild hater, I had Dallas in 6, and I don't believe in
Minnesota Wild hater, really.
Yeah, I don't know. We've had their number like ever since I was like 10 years old, and they've done. Not maybe that I don't hate, like not believer. I get
what you're saying.
I think that'd probably be a better way. Not a hater,
doubter.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, hate's a strong Minnesota
word. Doubter. Yeah. No, thank you. The only thing I hate in the NHL is William Nylander.
I was gonna. Yeah,
I love Mac.
That's mostly a bit. It's mostly a bit. Did you see his failed keg stand the other night? Did you see that?
Yeah, that was
unbelievable. Betsy would never. Yeah.
Exactly, man. Yeah. But the center depth was just it never. It was like it's gonna be Nathan McKinnon versus Eriksson at your center, and like I just can never see them. And that's if they got to the second round. Sorry, Dallas is. Wyatt Johnson,
Rupe Hintz,
Duchesne.
Duchesne. But the thing is, Rupe Hintz has been out. And so I picked Minnesota in 7, and my reasoning was because Heiskanen was banged up. Rupe Hintz was going to miss a couple of games, and I figured in a series that was so close, I'm going to go to the more healthy team. And after watching the first 2 games, like I'm not going to lie, I'm very confident in my pick. Could Dallas do some rat shit? They do have this ability to win playoff series, especially early on in the playoffs that they probably shouldn't, i.e. last year against Colorado. I thought they got outplayed in probably 5 of the 7 games, but still won the series. I personally, and I said this on stream last night, I would love to get your guys' take on it. I said that I would take the top 4 on Minnesota over the top 4 on Dallas. And so I said I would take Kaprizov, Boldy, Quinn Hughes, Brock Faber over, I guess there's 5 guys on Dallas, but out of Robertson, Rantanen, Johnston, and then if you want to say Heiskanen and Harley out of 5, just pick 4 of those. I'm picking those 4 guys on Minnesota all day long, but that's just me personally.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because like Quinn Hughes over Heiskanen, although like it's maybe Heiskanen
and Kaprizov's the best forward.
Yeah, Art definitely.
But I think
Who else is on the Wild? I need to look at the Wild top 4. Boldy, Boldy's underrated too, man.
Boldy, Kaprizov, Faber, Hughes.
I'd say Rantanen's probably the 3rd best or 2nd best forward, I should say. A 2nd best forward after Kaprizov. Then J-Rob's right behind.
That's a good proposal.
Rantanen and Robertson are right with each other. I'd say it's 2, 3, and then 4 Boldy probably.
But here's my thing: is I'm taking Matt Boldy over Jason Robertson every day of the week and twice on Saturday
in the playoffs.
Boldy's, and so is Bill Guerin.
And so is Billy G. Billy G. And thank God he did, because guess who scored against
guess
Canada?
Who's got a silver medal now?
Yeah. So that's all. And so maybe that's a bit of my American bias there, just like kind of.
No, I actually couldn't give you an answer, man, because that's like I can see an argument. When you said Wyatt Johnson, I love him, so I was like, no, I want Wyatt Johnson, but it's like Quinn Hughes is better than Heiskanen. Boldy is very sneaky underrated. Kaprizov's the best. Kaprizov and Rantanen, I can almost like Kaprizov's better, but Rantanen has done more like in the playoffs, and like I can almost kind of cancel them out with the contracts too, because I think $17 million is insane. Especially after like an 80-point season. That's actually a really good proposal, man, because I actually cannot give you an answer.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments. Give me of the top 4s from the Minnesota Wild and the Dallas Stars, who would you guys take and why? Let us know in the comments, because I think it's a good proposition. But for me, I just like Matt Boldy. Watching what Boldy and Kaprizov did last year in the first round against Vegas, it's like they just showed up every single game, and I think they're going to show up every single game this playoffs. Boldy, scoring in the gold medal game, and what a goal that was.
Boldy is really underrated too.
He's so good, just a sneaky 40+ goal scorer. That is an amazing two-way player. Like, I know you can look at the center depth, but I just like the wings on Minnesota, and they're so heavy up front. Their blue line is so good defensive. They're not nearly as big of a blue line as Dallas's blue line is, with Myers and Bichelle and the likes, but I just think they're so good at keeping pucks away from the net.
Quinn Hughes is just like a game changer too. Like
that Hughes Faber D pair is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's the best pairing in the NHL. Like it's better than Cale Makar and Devon Toews at this point.
They had a kind of not a great year. I think Makar. I don't understand how he's in Norris talks, because he definitely should not win the Norris this year. But conversation for another time. What did you boys think, really quick? I wanted to get your opinion on Porter Martone. What he's doing over in Philly.
Yeah, and I think we did a lot of that talk last year, in terms of the 2025 draft. I think we're very happy with. We're very happy with that front up. I think both of us are actually pretty locked in on Martone, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're not mistaken.
I was also he was also my pick.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, I remember you wrote a lot of tweets from you, because he is kind of exactly that power forward player archetype with size at Bedard's wing that. Yeah, we kind of thought he fit perfectly there, but maybe not the best skater, which maybe is not that Davidson mold of a player. So that's why I didn't take him. But I'm happy.
Look at him out there now.
I'm happy for him, but just I would say after that, I would say he's probably been the most impactful, honestly, for that draft class so far. So,
he's their best fucking forward, man.
Yeah, he's their best player. He's been the X factor.
I tweeted yesterday. I was like, he is already better than Mitchkov by like a significant.
That's not even a conversation.
Yeah, no,
a conversation.
I don't watch Philly. I was like.
He's not
This guy is way better than Michkov, man.
Michkov's not even playing. He probably shouldn't even be in the lineup. Porter Martone is, yeah.
It was also, even beyond like it's not a good statement because Michkov was like particularly invisible. Like
Justin and I had been talking about Porter Martone on Chicago Hockey Radio last year, every single show for like 2 months before the draft.
We were glazing that guy so much.
so like I'll say like, and Justin, I guess you can butt in too, but like obviously he's been incredible. And like, would that be amazing on a wing with Connor Bedard? Yes. But I still think that if Antoine Freundel can be that shutdown, you know, that prototypical Selke candidate two-way centerman, that's more valuable than
not a bad pick at all, man. I think he like passed. I don't think like a couple other teams passed on Martone too. Not that necessarily justifies it, but like I think Freundel was the right pick there, and I still think that the ceiling with Freundel could potentially be as high or higher than Martone in the end of what he can become. I still envision like this beast to see like weird Draisaitl Barkov hybrid that just is a mutant in the playoffs and wins faceoffs and kills penalties, and he's like pretty much the team captain. Like he's very high on Freundel, so it's definitely, I don't want to steer it towards like that conversation, but like it is hard to like ignore how fucking evidently good Porter Martone is right away.
It's a win-win. I don't know if you agree. Like it's kind of like Barkov versus like Brady Tkachuk. Is that kind of how you see it a little bit?
Yeah, because like I was gonna say because like hockey's more than just the stats, right? I mean, Martone might outproduce you, he might put up more on the stat sheet, but I do think Freundel could have more of those intangibles in his game that he could kind of bring to the table. Especially he has kind of his frame. I want to see him use it more. I think he could kind of add more of that physical edge to his game of how good he has in the board battles, etc. And he has that defensive ability, like you said. So I think he has that all around. He's a kind of perfect all around player. You kind of play in your second line. So I think it's still gonna be a very good pick for us. I think either way you can't really go wrong. So
yeah, but it does. I mean,
it is hard to watch. Knowing like because we're not really surprised by this, right? We're not really surprised.
And we're just not in the playoffs.
But there's a lot of options. There's a lot of options in the 25 draft in terms of forwards. Like a lot of people, it's funny. A lot of people are saying the 25 draft is going to be weak. Oh, it's not looking very weak so far. The amount of players
after Matthew Schaefer, man. Oh. So after Matthew Schaefer, I'm never buying that argument ever again about weak draft classes because, like, it's just you don't fucking know, man. I was told that like Matthew Schaefer was like that draft class was shit, and that like the top of that was like nowhere near 2023 or 2025. And Matthew Schaefer is literally the most generational defenseman I've ever seen. So like I'm not buying into that narrative ever again of like this is a bad draft class. Maybe it's not as highly touted, but let's see how it develops because these kids are 17, man. Schaefer has I won't go on with Schaefer.
Yeah, I think it's already something like 10 players or something. Over 10 players have like from that draft have already played. Like we're only a year in. Like I can't remember our last draft we were seeing that many players within a year already featured in the NHL at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it hurt, Justin? Does it almost hurt a little bit less? Like it's not as painful to see Porter Martone doing this because we were like this, like we did think that should be the guy. Like in a weird sense that it's like
validating.
At least it proves us right? So it's like, I get you. I get what you mean from a sense. It's not the same as watching a guy like Davidov, where it's like it's a different position, right? In terms of watching those two, it's the same position. And like I think there's a lot of options at that pick at 3 where it's like you can't really go wrong, right? If you're looking for that standpoint. So it's not as hard to watch, but because I'm a big believer in Freundel, where it's some other guys, they need to show me quite a bit more until
Yeah, I agree. All right, boys. Is there anything else we want to touch on? How
about the Edmonton Blackhawks the other night? Jason Dickinson multi-goal game. Yeah. They've been playing well. So I like to see them do well. Just because they have a lot of Blackhawks in the team. You want to see McDavid finally get that cup, and then he could go to Chicago in a couple of years, right? I'm just kidding. Not really. But yeah, and then I want to see the Blackhawks do well, right? I think Minnesota as well for Nick Foligno. I do have Dallas winning, but you like to see Foligno go off a championship. You always cheer for the former Blackhawks. I actually made a post compiling a list of all the former Blackhawks who are in the playoffs. It can literally make up an entire team. It's pretty every year. It's a yearly tradition.
sweet.
The Blackhawks to playoffs. The pipeline continues, but without the Blackhawks, just former Blackhawks. So yeah,
that is. I don't know why you do that to yourself. That's like depressing.
It's the tism, man. It's the tism.
Yeah,
I'm obsessed with that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say about that Oilers series, like I have them going all the way to the Western Conference Finals. I think they can go on another run. I don't think the team's that great, but I think that they've got some of the right. I don't know. Just
the first two rounds are pretty.
You just always have a chance with those guys, you know. And part of me thinks that like I didn't think Anaheim had a chance in this series, and last night, even though they played well and kind of had them on the ropes at for a little bit in the third period, I think that if anything confirmed my belief that like you held McDavid without a point. Like Draisaitl didn't score.
And they still won.
They still beat you.
They got the depth. They had the depth.
They beat you 4-3. Like the power play wasn't great. McDavid
Ingram wasn't great.
And they're not going to be able to shut down McDavid like that all year, all series long.
No.
But I mean, you do have to give them credit because that was the game I really keyed in on last night. Like they were clogging up the middle of the ice. They were not letting McDavid pick up any sort of momentum in the neutral zone whatsoever. Just like bodies. And same thing with Draisaitl, they were just getting guys on him, being physical, making sure he knew that they had someone on him at all times. And they were just, they were clogging traffic. And so credit to them, but I don't think that they're going to have that same kind of success. I think Edmonton will be able to make adjustments, and I don't think you're keeping 97 pointless for any other games this series.
I do like their path too, right? I mean, Ducks are a solid team. I think their first go in the playoffs. I had that one ending pretty quick. I think I had it 5 games, and whether it's Vegas, Utah, probably Vegas. I actually had Utah winning. I'm not really loving that one so far, but that was mostly a hard prediction just because I don't like Vegas. But I think either one of those teams, I think Oilers handle pretty straightforward. I know Vegas had a good finish, but I don't think they stack up to that Edmonton team. And Utah, I think, would be a quick series. The conference final is going to be tough. Going through one of those 3 Central teams is going to be tough. But at the same time, I think they're going to play quite a few more games before that point too. So the Oilers should be ready to go. And they've been there, done it. They beat those teams before, the last couple of years. So they could do it again, but yeah, no, I think, and if they do get to the Cup final, they have to play Florida. I think they got it. I think they got it. If they play a team like Carolina, assuming it's Carolina, it feels like it's going to be Carolina, unless they lose in the third round like they do every year. But I have a hard time, picturing another team in that slot. I think they would probably be able to take them. So, but yeah, they got to get past that conference final. I think it's going to be tricky. Yeah.
Ovi, you got that Oilers hat on. Did you pick them to win it all?
Yeah. Here's the thing. I do a playoff pool every year. It's like a big deal with all the boys back home. Been doing it for forever. This year, I got first overall pick, and I got Connor McDavid. So I'm all in. I'm all in on the Oilers. I was in on the Oilers before that emotionally, just from a hockey purist point of view. I need to see Connor McDavid get a cup, or I'm like legitimately going to be pissed off. Like I'll just be like 60 years old, and I'll remember McDavid didn't get a cup and just fucking like punch the drywall. I just let it happen, get it out of the way, and then we can move on. Thing with Edmonton that I'm worried about, like as somebody who's rooting for Edmonton, I question how long can they go, because they've played a lot of hockey in the last couple of years. Like teams who go on these runs, that's often a narrative that pops up, is how long can they keep this up. McDavid's played a lot of hockey with, like, when you factor in the Olympics and stuff like that. So could you potentially run into like hit a wall somewhere in the Western Conference Finals? That's what I would be worried about. But honestly, I genuinely think on paper, I think you have an argument that this Edmonton team is the best they've been set up for a cup run in terms of depth and like actual need. Like their defense looks much better than it did when you had Connor Murphy, Wallman, Bouchard has taken a level. Like Nurse, we got Coffey back on the bench who would help with Nurse. Like Dickinson, great third line center. You got Nugent Hopkins on the third line. Savoie has stepped into a role where he can play on McDavid's line and be effective. So I think if things like play out and these guys aren't too tired or hurt or like whatever, because I know Draisaitl and Hyman just came back and there's some questions there. And if goaltending's obviously the big question.
Yeah, Ingram.
Like, I don't really know. I think the rest of the team is built the best they've been to go on a run. The future, not.
It's
not
always the
too
goaltending
great.
that's the issue there. It's always the
the-
goaltending.
Yeah,
It's
and
every
that
single
trade
year.
was
That's the question.
so bad. That
I
trade
will
was
say
so
this about Ingram, and this is also kind of what I've heard from Oilers people, is that Ingram is, I mean, he's not like a super elite goaltender by any means. I didn't love his rebound control last night. He doesn't look
Crazy.
unbeatable, but he makes the saves that he's supposed to. And so
Mhm.
that's the difference between him and what they've
The
had
gas
in the
is Skinner,
past,
yeah.
is that he
Mhm.
he saves the one he's supposed to. And so if they can suppress as many of the, super high quality looks, he'll at least give them a chance. And that's really all they need. And so I agree with what you said, Ovi, about, do they get tired? But I think if there's one guy that's, never going to get tired, I think it's 97.
He's not human. He's not human. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have my phone background is you can't even, it won't focus, but it's a screenshot of a quote of his from that Players Tribune article that just fires me up so much that I made it my phone background a little while back. But
what's the quote? Oh, you got Gavin Kennedy. I got here, let me show you. I got
try to manifest it.
I got let me see. Pookie. Yeah.
Pookie.
Betsy's his first goal at the United Center. His first goal at the United Center. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Pretty elite. All right, boys. We're at an hour and a half. I think we can probably call it there. Unless there's
We've been talking
else.
for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
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 Time flies. Yeah.
All right. Well, we appreciate you all for watching. If you enjoyed, subscribe to our channels, like the video, hype the video. It helps get the show out to more people. We'd really appreciate it. Make sure you follow Justin on social media at BHawkMemes. Make sure you're also following Mr. Ovi Clapbaum at Ovi Clapbaum. And we will see you on the next episode of the program. Did I say the program at the start of the
program?
show?
Yeah, I'll
The
program.
Yeah.
That's our official name now, right? Yeah.
We'll see you on the next episode of the program. Have a good one. Go Blackhawks.
Absolute cinema.